Today we have Namal Rajapaksa, the former minister and also the son of the president of Sri Lanka, the former president of Sri Lanka, Mahinda Rajapaksa. Namal, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Ken. How are you? Hi, Bohan.
Hi, Buan. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you speaking to us today. Namal, my first question is, how are you, first of all, overall? I think that's what we'd like to know. How are you?
Thank you, Kiran. Very well. I mean, see, as you know, in politics, it has always been challenging this part of the world. And as a party, as a family, we have been going through a tough patch during the last couple of years. But politically, we have recovered very well, I would say, as a setup. And
Mm,
we have been restructuring our party and introducing a lot of new policies while maintaining our core values of our party, and also getting a lot of youngsters involved in politics. So we have managed to attract most of the educated academic, also who has been in politics and the system for a while. So a lot of young youth leaders coming into the party and the party system, so which has given us the advantage of grooming, re-establishing ourselves as a force to be recognized during upcoming elections.
No, no, that's fantastic. Now, in terms of Sri Lanka at the moment, when I was in Sri Lanka recently, I was maybe about a year and a half ago. I remember speaking to a couple of people just after COVID, and when it came to taxes and also the same
Mhm.
time to a very high fuel costs. Now, obviously, Sri Lanka is going through a very different economical situation. What's the current situation in Sri Lanka so far in terms of the economical situation?
Well, Kiran, as you know, we are on IMF program, and I believe when you visited last, we were on verge of getting into IMF program.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference at that time and now is that we are on IMF program on IMF terms. So we always, as set up as a government, we wanted during our time to go into IMF with our own conditions, our own terms, so that we can also look at the social welfare net as well. But unfortunately, the current government and the previous government was only concentrating on the government revenue aspect of it rather than looking at the people's perspective. And also, we were introducing heavily policies for stability, but not for growth. So today, because of high taxation, the fuel prices have gone up. Obviously, because our procurement issues, we purchased the highest in the market, and we entered the market at the wrong time. So we have, as a government, we have purchased at a very high rate. And also, the most of the coal tenders that were put out by our government, the delivery was not what we expected, so low quality. So yield was much more less. So the government needed to burn more fuel on our on our diesel plants to keep up, to provide electricity 24 hours. So as a result, the consumption of fuel has gone up and the prices have gone up. But at the same time, with IMF policies, basically our government is only concentrating on high taxing for as a method of government revenue. So without proper new investment coming in, new dollars coming into the market, new people coming in, creating more employment, we will not come out of the crisis. But today, what we see is not a strategy to come out of it, but also, but increasing taxes day by day to make sure that we keep on our growth strategy, our recovery strategy, but stability strategy. But there is no growth at all.
No, I understand. Now, I want to go straight direct into this more depth. Now, the MPP government came into power promising a clean break from traditional politics. Now, in your opinion, also your family's opinion, you guys have been in power for a very, very long time. What's your thoughts on that? Have they delivered so far?
Well, I mean, few journalists asked me this question in domestic, in local setup as well, but my answer was very clear. I mean, if you go through their manifesto and if you tick the button or put a tick to everyone, everything that they have delivered, it's almost zero. Because they have nothing, they have delivered what they promised. And they promised to negotiate with IMF on a better terms, to give more freedom for transactions and get new investments and create employment, which they haven't done. They reduce the fertilizer cost, which they haven't done, and they promised to give employment to graduates, which they haven't done, and also they promised a lot of reforms in the system, which they haven't done. So, as to their own constitution, I believe they haven't delivered what they promised and what people expected from them.
Now, my other question now is obviously many Sri Lankans are going to see this, and many people in your country, in terms of in Sri Lanka itself. Now, why should people actually vote for you in the future, becoming the president or the prime minister of Sri Lanka? Why should people vote for you, and what's different from you compared to the current government at the moment, and why should people actually vouch for you?
Well, Kiran, see, firstly, we represent the next generation, and our
Hmm.
party is going to be the front-running political setup in Sri Lanka,
Hmm.
who understands the youth and understand the needs of the next generation. And also, we
Hmm.
have experience of developing the country and having
Hmm.
a 7% growth for
Hmm.
almost 10 years with our seniors getting
Hmm.
into the system.
Hmm.
So we offer modernization. So we
Hmm.
believe the country has to be modernized, the setup has to be modernized, the politics
Hmm.
has to be modernized.
Hmm.
And as a young setup, we believe we represent the next generation of politicians. So
Hmm.
we offer modernization, we offer Sri Lankan citizens the next step what they're expecting.
Hmm. Now, what is your response to young voters who associate with you? Obviously, there's going to be young people. I mean, obviously, as the former, sports minister, your responsibilities was also not just to bring in tourism, but also bring in sports activities or sports events around the world. What's so special in terms of the young people now actually follow you around Sri Lanka?
Well, see, the youngsters must be very vigilant because there are a lot of political parties who wants to use them, who gives them
Hmm.
false promises. And if you look at
Hmm.
the history of Sri
Hmm.
Lanka, started from 83,
Hmm.
88, 89, and then the LTT was terrorizing the youngsters in the north. And then we had many crises that came up in the country. Even 2022, the certain external elements used youth, the youngsters, to go against the government. So
Hmm.
it is very easy to manipulate. So what I believe is, what my urge to youngsters, what my request to youngsters is not to get manipulated, but read, understand yourself, and vote for something that you believe in, not for the trend, but what something you believe in and what you can, what and vote for people who can make it realistic, rather than people who talk about fantasies. So we have very much educated and politically savvy young generation in our country, and as a result, we have always managed to transfer political power within democratic process rather than violence, even if it's been taken into violence by certain political setup, political parties. But as a society as large, we have always managed to keep that controlled and then elect a government on the diplomat on a democratic platform
Hmm.
on way of election. So my request to Sri Lankans, the youngsters especially, understand before you vote, understand the reality, get to know your politicians, get to know your political party, and vote for modernization. Look for something that you and we can relate to.
Now, your father was the president and then became the prime minister. Also, at the same time, your uncle was also the president. So obviously, it runs in your family in terms of political. Now, in terms of the advice that your father gives you, Mahinda, he must give you advice. What sort of advice? Because you are the last generation. Well, not the last generation, but you are the next. The next candidate in terms of potentially becoming the president. What advice does your father give you?
Well, he always tells me to go to the village, go and talk to people,
Mm,
go and
mm,
interact with communities, whether it's a
mm,
Muslim, Tamil, or Hindu, whether they're from north or south.
mm,
Keep traveling in the country, get
mm,
to know your people, get to know your voters, and also learn
mm,
about the global politics. Things have changed overall all over the world. So we must understand that on modern context,
mm,
geopolitics is equally important as your domestic politics, and what changes that happens in the Gulf, Asia, or even Europe will have a massive impact on the domestic setup, economically, socially, and also politically. So his advice is to always, travel, talk to people, engage with
mm,
people, and
mm,
learn from them. He
mm,
had that charisma, he had that link, he had
mm,
that connection with the masses. So his
mm.
advice to me has always been, to take that forward and understand our voters and understand our people.
It's a great thing you said there, Namu, and I'm listening to everything you're saying. In terms of you learning, what have you learned by being a politician? Yes, at the same time, being political or being a politician is about being a people's person, about people to trust you, people to support you, people to love you. But what have you learned psychology as being a politician that you can bring value to Sri
Mhm.
Lanka?
Well, be yourself, be yourself. Don't be fake. Don't be someone who you're not, be honest to people. Be yourself.
Mm,
Firstly, if
mm,
you're not yourself, you try to pretend someone you're not. And
mm,
then you can't expect that person to be more honest to the people, right? Honest to your
mm,
masses, honest to people who voted for you. So
mm,
what I've learned right throughout from my father and also in Sri Lankan politics, if you are
mm,
honest to your own voters, if you're honest about yourself.
mm,
So when you say honesty, people talk about promises, policies, what you say on paper. No, but first be
mm,
honest who you are.
Hmm.
Let people accept you for who you are. You don't have to change yourself just to be elected. So this is
Hmm.
something that I've learned in last 15 or 16 years in parliament and seen my father in politics for so many years. He has
Hmm.
always been true to himself. So
Hmm.
eventually people will start believing in you.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
have always tried to be myself, not someone who I'm not. And
Hmm.
this is what I think my message to anyone who wants to enter politics. Just be true to yourself.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, where do you see Sri Lanka in the next 5 years? Obviously, if you are going to run for president again, and at this, I know you ran in 2024. Now, obviously, if you become president this time, where do you see, and also what will you bring different to Sri Lanka? Not just I'm talking about the votes now. I'm talking about the lifestyle. I'm talking about the economical situation. I'm talking about people's well-being and health. What would you bring to Sri Lanka?
Well, see, it's very hard to predict where Sri Lanka is going to be in 5 years because I'm sure none of the countries knows where they're going to be end of the year,
Hmm.
with the changes that are happening, very
Hmm.
fast changes that are happening all over the world. And who
Hmm.
thought 1 or 2 months ago, we never thought 4 or 5 months ago, we never thought that there will be a war in the Gulf and that has a massive effect in Sri Lanka. So today it is there and it has affected the entire Gulf region. So things can change, but I think overall Sri Lanka needs deregulation. Sri Lanka need
Hmm.
regulation in certain sectors, but at the same time, Sri Lanka need a lot of deregulation because we have over-regulated ourselves for so many years, introducing new laws to cover up certain things or new laws to cover up certain laws to close gaps. But eventually, what we have done is regulating ourselves, over-regulating ourselves. So we have no freedom whatsoever for government administrations to government officials to carry out their duties. There is no freedom of thinking when it comes to
Hmm.
certain sectors. So I think firstly, deregulate is something that I'm going to bring into table, and also financial transactions because I believe Sri Lanka can be a hub for financial transactions and financial services, along with
Hmm.
aviation and logistics in the port sector. So these are the three key areas that I'm looking at. Obviously, tourism, something that is relevant, that's something that we cannot ignore. Uh, but tourism, we have to look at in a bigger picture. If we increase our airport capacity, if we increase our airport services, that will increase our tourism naturally. So next challenge for Sri Lanka is going to be deregulation and also establishing ourselves as a mature financial hub.
Now I'm going to ask you something more direct. I want you to take away that you are a politician for a second. I want you to take yourself as a Sri Lankan public citizen, which you are, but also a politician at the same time. But take you away from being a politician, for instance. Is Anura Kumara Dissanayake the current president at the moment? Is he the right president for Sri Lanka?
Well, see, it's a tough question because my answer will be very politically biased because obviously
Okay, you know
I'm.
what? You know what? Let's just take that away for a second. Is he the right character, the right personality to be the current
Well,
president at the moment?
I don't know whether he has the experience to face the current challenges. So,
Hmm.
as a human being, I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure
Hmm.
he has gone through a lot in his life, coming out of his party, doing a lot of sacrifice to his own setup, own political party. And he come from a very normal rural family in Anuradhapura. There's a lot of respect for that, a lot of respect for how he has groomed himself to become the president of Sri Lanka right throughout his path. But the question is he ready and groomed and geared to face the current challenges in the country? Answer is no.
Now, in terms of sorry, now I just want to go on. Now, talking about AI, I want to go into more AI. Then
Mhm.
we will return back into politics. AI has been transforming around the world. It's been implemented, as you know, Elon Musk, is really implementing in terms of Tesla, Twitter, etc., etc. What's your thoughts on AI, and do you think it's a danger to the society, or do you think it's a positive for the society?
Well, it has, see, it can be very positive when it comes to citizen services and cutting down red tapes, and especially when we talk about deregulations for a country like us.
Hmm.
And also it can find simple solutions for hard questions. It can create life more easier for the public.
Hmm.
But again, it also can cut down a lot of jobs. It will
Hmm.
create jobs, but also it will cut down jobs.
Right.
It'll be a challenge for youngsters to get them to think because now the device thinks for you. You don't have to think to yourself.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if education is based on AI, the question is, uh, where is analytical thinking is going to,
Hmm.
how are we going to be trained as youngsters,
Hmm.
as kids,
Hmm.
to think and take a decision rather than asking from a device. So they continue to balance between their lifestyle and in technology. And I believe that's where the regulators comes in. While you bring your citizen services to the table, make it more simple, easy to use, but at the same time, you have to make sure that you respect and maintain your core values and your religious values. Because if you try to use AI to get a Bible quote or a Buddhist verse, Gatha, right? So it's not going to help you. It can give you the details, but to understand that you need to have your analytical thinking. You shouldn't ask that from AI. But
Absolutely.
you need to be
Absolutely.
trained and you need to have your thinking pattern, thinking going. So this is
Healthcare.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. So after you, no, no, continue after you. Sorry, after you.
Yeah, so this is what I think the challenges that we will face. But see, it will come. You can't stop AI getting into the system. So world has been evolving very fast, moving very fast. But the countries and the regulators, policymakers must make sure how to strike a balance between the actual human being and the technology.
Healthcare in Sri Lanka, as you know, everywhere around the world, healthcare is very important. And obviously, that's I'm sure many Sri Lankans are going to ask you in terms of maybe through free healthcare. I mean, obviously that's a question that you need to answer yourself. But in terms of healthcare, what's the current healthcare situation at the moment in Sri Lanka, and what can you improve in healthcare?
So we have maintained, every government in our country has maintained free healthcare, but today there is shortage of medicine and shortage of medicine and lack of infrastructure in the rural areas. I think one is, of course, yes, proper structure on your drugs, on your medicine. And Sri Lanka can be a hub for the region as well on manufacturing. So Sri Lanka needs to look into manufacturing our own medicine with global partners and also looking at exporting to regional markets because Sri Lanka is a small market. So supply manufacturing for Sri Lanka itself might not be feasible. Access to healthcare, our services are very good. Our doctors, nurses are very strong. They're very good, very well experienced. So it's a matter of making it industry now. So there are few private hospitals, private entities that are taking it up, but I think Sri Lanka can offer more in the larger picture to the global market.
And crime rate. Crime rate is everywhere around the world. There's everywhere in terms of, in all different countries. In Sri Lanka, what's the crime rate situation? How are you able to prevent the crime rate? And also, what is the percentage? I mean, in terms of what are you able to do to reduce the crime rate in Sri Lanka?
Well, the crime rate in Sri Lanka has been it has been a roller coaster. Sometimes some years it's very high, some years it's very low. So last 1.5 years there has been a lot of crime rates, a lot of gang violence or struggles between all the shootings among rivalries. But you give the respect to the government also. They have been on a very big campaign on tracking down these underworld or organized crime leaders. And also, there is an accusation, obviously, certain groups have been protected by the government. But overall, I think comparing to our region, Sri Lanka has much less crime rate than most of the countries in
Majority.
our region.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of in the UK, in the United Kingdom, we have something called benefits, where in terms of social benefits, where it comes to people get free houses, people get free if you're not privileged enough or you don't have the right education, you'll be given a free house. Lots of people actually abuse that system. I'll be honest with you. Many people in the UK abuse the system in terms of just applying on the benefits, etc. Now, is there a benefit system in Sri Lanka? I mean, it's not that I'm not illiterate, that I haven't researched, but I'd like to know from you. And also, at the same time, is this something that you're happy to have that conversation with, that people that need or are disabled or are autistic or have disability, that you're able to bring something towards Sri Lanka in that perspective?
Yeah, Sri Lanka has a very strong social network, social welfare network, and at one point, most of the governments are blamed to have a stronger social welfare rather than concentrating on corporate sector more. But every government has maintained it, and even today we have few projects, few programs to uplift the rural community or the low-income families. But again, it's a matter of balancing it, and I believe every person who is on the scheme eventually must be taken out of the scheme by improving their life standards. And China has done a tremendously well in that. So there are a lot of things that we can learn from their model, how they have elevated poverty in China. Of course, a country with 1.5 billion people. So every country has good ways of implementing. Like for us, we have free education, free health, and we have lot of families under Samurdhi, we got a program called Samurdhi, then there's another program called Aswasuma. So
mm,
there are many programs, but what I see now, moving forward from there, because
mm,
of the global context or political challenges we face, every
mm,
year the numbers are increasing of the people who are getting welfare. So we
mm,
need to have a proper strategy how we can take them out of the system and make them self-sufficient, earn themselves by the entrepreneurship or and put them into proper employment structure. So
mhm,
that is something that I will look at in a very serious way because we will
mhm,
definitely concentrate on the social welfare network.
mm,
And I believe the agriculture sector should be heavily subsidized
mhm,
because food security is going to be one of the biggest challenges in next 10 or 15 years all
mhm,
over the world,
mhm,
even end of this year.
mhm,
So I believe sector should be heavily subsidized,
mm,
but the subsidy should be targeted rather than
mm,
giving it to overall. So it should
mm.
be to the people who deserve it.
Racism. Racism in the world is a very huge issue, especially in the
Mhm.
UK. We're having this situation with the Henry Novak killing that just happened recently against a Sikh person that used a Persian knife that wasn't actually used a qurban. He actually used a Persian knife. Racism is around everywhere. The condolence, obviously, to the love and the respect of the Henry Novak situation that's happened in the UK. Now, immigration obviously is an issue around the world, but no, in terms of racism, you have the Sinhala, and then you also at the same time have the Tamils that live in Jaffna. Now, obviously, there is segregation. There's always that tension between different areas in Sri Lanka. How are you tackling that situation in terms of two rivalries or Sri Lankans, but at the same time have two different cultures?
Well, see, racism has always been political all over the
Mm,
world.
mm,
It has become one of the most strongest political tool either to
mm,
campaign against it
mm,
or campaign for a particular race or caste or,
mm,
or religion.
mm,
And it has been very political, and mostly the politicians have the bigger issue than actually the public. And there
mm,
are certain sectors in the society, of course,
mm,
which is beyond the control of the law and order.
mm,
But in general, in Sri Lanka, at least at large, the
mm,
racism has predominantly
mm,
been very much political.
mm,
But I believe extremism is something that we need to look at very seriously because
mm,
extremism is growing all over the world, especially in our
mm,
region.
mm,
And as a nation, more than racism, I think extremism is a challenge that Sri Lanka will
mm.
face in next decade or two.
Now, part of my job as a journalist was always to be on the fence. I can never be biased towards anyone. But in terms of when I
Mhm,
met your father, I was actually invited to your residency maybe about 3 years
mhm,
ago, and we had a splendid dinner. And I remember speaking to your father and him saying to me pacifically, I remember him he's a very tough man, but he was telling me pacifically, my aim is to help the people. Now, what's the difference between the current president today and also at the same time your father? Because your father also defeated the Tamil Tigers that happened. He was by himself and managed to
mhm.
achieve that. And obviously, even though the Sri Lankan economical crisis isn't a disaster at the moment, or is in a bit of a mix, what's the difference between the current president and the way your father behaved when he was a president?
Well, my father was very much confident and he knew what he was doing. But
Mm,
unfortunately, current president is not confident enough to take his
mm,
own decision, and he is not confident about his own government.
mm,
So, so he wants to survive, and my father
mm,
wanted to grow. So my father wanted during his administration the economy to grow, politically the party to be very strong,
mm,
uh, get more investors into the system, and have a growth oriented, target oriented mechanism, whether it's politics or economics.
mhm,
Current president or the current setup is looking at survival. They're looking at surviving for till the next election and see what's going to happen afterwards. So that kind of mentality will not help to grow economy fast or to grow his own political setup fast. So I think the difference between the current president and my father was pretty much confident himself.
mm.
Then he was growth oriented. Current president is not confident enough, but he wants to survive.
Now, also, do you think let's just be direct and honest? I think if the Sri Lankan people would like to know, because you're talking about confidence, do you think you'll be the do you think you'll be the next president?
But I'm very much confident that my party will do extremely well, and we are very
Mm.
confident that we will be the force to be recognized, and we will win next any election that's going to be held in Sri Lanka.
Now, world politics, very quickly. In terms of world politics, as you know, as you said previously before about the USA and also Iran. Now, obviously, there's lots of wars going on. First, we had Palestine, and then we had Israel, and now we're having the Ukrainian versus the Russia. Now it's gone from the UAE tension. Now it's gone from. Do you think the world is? Do you think the world? I mean, it's a very stupid. You might think it's a quite stupid question, but I don't think it is. Do you think the world is coming to an end?
Well, humanity will be. With
Hmm.
its world, I don't know about the world, but definitely humanity is dying.
Hmm.
Uh, Emotions are dying. People are
Hmm.
becoming robots. People are looking at more of commercialization
Hmm.
and
Does that scare you?
power.
Does that worry you? Does that worry you individually?
Well, yeah, of
What
course,
you said.
because our next generation, what are they going to inherit? Are they going to inherit hatred? Are they going to inherit violence? Or are they going to inherit a nation without a history?
Hmm.
There's a lot
Do
of
you, do you think AI is going to
propaganda.
take? Do you think? And also, sorry, I'm really sorry to interrupt you there. I shouldn't have done that, but I think it's very important.
Mhm.
AI. Obviously, Sri Lankan people are going to be very nervous and very anxious about AI taking their jobs. Do you think AI is going to take Sri Lankan jobs?
Not all. New jobs will be created. New jobs will definitely be created. And as I said, see, even AI is taking your humanity out of you, right? It gives
Hmm.
you a robot.
Hmm.
So AI will create new jobs for sure.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
AI will eliminate certain jobs. We have to
Hmm.
be ready for it. And we have seen that along the circle for last 30, 40 years. When you
Hmm.
have technology coming into the system, you lose
Hmm.
certain jobs and you create certain jobs around it. So
Hmm.
that is something that every government, whether it's Sri Lanka
Absolutely.
or any government, has to be geared up and be ready, and the educational and administrational setup should be ready to absorb it. But the humanity is dying in the world, so this is where the most scary part of it. So I believe this is where the religious leaders must come together and bring your nations, make sure that your nations are peaceful and your people are being looked after.
Absolutely. Namal Rajapaksa, I want to say thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And also my last thing, any message you'd like to tell, I briefly spoke to you about the Henry Novak situation that happened. I mean, we spoke about that Sikh boy. Any condolences or any love and support that you'd like to give to the family that are watching this today?
Yes, of course. I mean, we would like to offer our condolence, and also see the war, the violence, killing is something that is not being accepted. Cannot be
Hmm.
accepted. And
Hmm.
also the big superpowers, so-called superpowers, must understand whatever decision they make
Hmm.
to either show their power, show their strength, will have an adverse or negative impact on countries like us. And a lot of people will suffer. So they must also realize every action they take will have another reaction. There'll be a equal and opposite reaction in some
Hmm.
part of the world.
Hmm.
So world is at a very dangerous situation. I mean, very, very sad status. If you look at what is happening in Gaza, what is happening in Iran,
Hmm.
what is happening in India and Pakistan and Afghanistan, then UK, Ukraine, Russia. Killing is not something that we can accept, or we have gone to the war for last 30 years, and we know how it feels, and we know how dangerous it is.